The Conservative Party of Canada under Pierre Poilievre just broke a record. Now, this record, if you read typical mainstream press, appears to be a fantastic thing. But I'm going to dive into the issue with this particular record being broken and the complete lack of scrutiny by media just broadly around what went on here. So, this gets to an issue that I have with media generally. They are great at reporting the outcome of things. Oh, this thing happened. Look at this thing that happened. They are not as great at scrutinizing the process that led to said outcome. So let's get to the example. National Post, and this is just National Post, almost all headlines read this way, almost all the articles read the same way. Record breaking conservative fundraising for 2024, nearly double Liberal NDP total. In 2024, the Conservatives raised close to 41.8 million, while the Liberals brought in about 15.2 million and the NDP nearly 6.3 million. So, reading this headline and reading through the article, you'll see, wow, this is really good for the Conservative Party. But how did they do this? What does it mean that they were able to raise this kind of money, so much more than their competitors? What does that mean for the average person? This is a topic that is almost completely unexplored by the vast majority of Canadian media. Now, there are a couple examples I'll get to later of independent media doing a good job looking deeper into the process. But generally, the way that the vast majority of people consume Canadian media is through newspapers like this or through, CBC, CTV, and they don't do the scrutiny that is necessary. So they go on to break down the averages here. The Conservatives recorded 211,000 donors with an average contribution of around $198. The Liberals received donations from more than 118,000 people who gave 128 on average, and the NDP saw almost 60,000 donors chip in an average of $105 each. This gets to the beginning of where people should be asking questions. Why is the average higher, much higher, for the Conservatives compared to the Liberals and especially the NDP? What's going on here? So this, let me first show you how the Conservatives are framing all of this. The incredible generosity of hard-working Canadians to the Conservative Party is directly correlated to the growing movement and resonance of Pierre Poilievre's common sense message and promise to put Canada first. How about this? The Breach, which is one of the independent places I'm talking about, The Breach, the Norwal, Ricochet. There are several Canadian outlets that are independent that do a good job at looking into this stuff. 10 mansions that common man Pierre Poilievre has fundraised in. Now, this article is from last year. I'm going to get to a quote from it in a bit here, but I want to touch on a recent mansion that Pierre Poilievre visited in Westmount. So this was a fundraiser for the Conservative Party with Pierre Poilievre being there. The ticket price is the max donation, which is $17.50 a person. And Westmount is quite a lovely place. Here are some luxury homes for sale in case you're interested. This one going for $19.9 million. This one here, $15.5 million. 13.8, 13.7, 12.9. Oh, a big bargain here, $8.9 million. So you get an idea here of the kind of company that made it to this fundraiser. The NDP wrote about this. So I want to be clear. I wouldn't have used the NDP because it's a party. They obviously have a bias here. But there is so little reporting on this fundraiser that I had to use this as the basis. And then I did look deeper into it to ensure who this individual was, the company they run, and the kind of investments they make. But NDP writing here, Monday's private fundraiser was hosted by Sharon Stern and Aaron Stern at their 26,000 square foot Westmount mansion, so large it has its own postal code. Stern owns Converium Capital, which is the majority owner of Medical Facilities Corporation, which owns 4 American private for-profit hospitals in the United States. Now, I want to be clear. From what I am reading, these are not individuals that simply invest into for-profit healthcare. So while there is, You could argue, and NDP is trying to argue it here, the worry that, oh, this means that Pierre Poilievre wants to privatize healthcare. I can't jump to that conclusion because this is one of many investments that this company has made. So, as the Breach Media post that or article that I showed you earlier, this appears to be an annual fundraiser for them for the Conservative Party because last year around the same time they had a fundraiser back then where they're described as a major real estate and opportunistic investors. So they don't simply invest into for-profit healthcare, but what they do is invest into what they describe as distressed assets. So companies or whatever assets are not doing well that they see value in the potential for growth. That's where they kind of swoop in and find these places where they can make some money. Their whole outlook is money making, which again gets to the kind of company a lot of these politicians keep. When you are holding fundraisers in mansion after mansion after mansion after mansion, where to get in, you have to donate the highest limit, or I should say the fundraising limit to get in, you are obviously going to be swayed a little bit. Even if it's not intentional, simply the company you keep, the people you have long conversations with at a dinner party, that's going to sway your view on how you do things. And in Pierre Poilievre's uh, role, I mean, this is a guy who has always worked on behalf of the wealthy, on behalf of corporations. So it's not as if he had to be swayed. He's already been this way. But it's a reminder at how fake his whole working class persona is. This is who the man is and has always been. Now, this gets to the little bit of research that I did looking at publicly available information through Elections Canada about how much money was given to the Conservatives, the Liberals, and the NDP between $1,000 and the max of 1725. So again, you could all look this up yourself. It's all public. The Conservatives received 10,068 donations between 1,000 and 1725. The Liberals received 2,718 donations between 1,000 and 1725, and the NDP received only 385 donations between 1,000 and 1725. This gives you another data point to look at to indicate who is serving who. When you have over 10,000 contributions that are over $1,000 given to the Conservatives, and then the next closest of the Liberals is at 2,718. Again, I'm not saying that the Liberals don't also serve power in other ways, and I have scrutinized on this channel the Trudeau government over the past 9 years. Uh, but there is a difference here, and the NDP clearly. I mean, this is a party that unfortunately doesn't get the credit it deserves. I think they need a new leader. Jagmeet Singh has done what he could, but I think it's time to move on. But you can see based on the donations, they're not getting a lot. And while that is bad for them as a party, because they need the money to be able to, put the message out there in a way that they want to, it's also good in a way because it showcases that the NDP actually definitely are not working for the wealthy or massive corporations. But this gets to the last point that I want to drive home here, which is not just about the issue of meeting with wealthy people. It's what that actually means for policy. So, corporate lobbyists flock into Pierre Poilievre's Cash for Access fundraiser. As they write, more than 100 active or recent corporate lobbyists have attended the Conservative Party's Cash for Access fundraiser since Pierre Poilievre became leader. So, loyalists for oil and natural resource companies, big banks, telecoms, large retailers, and real estate investors paid for entry to private Cash for Access fundraisers with Poilievre held across the country. So, when you think of something like the cost of groceries and what is necessary to combat the greed of these massive corporations, is somebody who is meeting closely with people that run those companies, is that someone you would trust to put the policy in place that is necessary to tamp down on that greed? I mean, these corporate lobbyists, as they write here, will be looking to Poilievre to a Poilievre government, the sorts of policies Stephen Harper's conservatives implemented, slashing corporate taxes, undermining labor rights, limiting access to social assistance, and removing environmental regulations. And, you go a step further here, they're in his top council. So nearly half of the conservatives' new governing body are lobbyists for oil, pharma, real estate, and anti-union companies. Yeah, they're really going to care about the cost of housing. No, their solution is going to be to hand even more money to private investors. And okay, how about the issue with rents? How about the complete lack of social housing? There are ways to attack the housing issue that could immediately help people without having to hand more money off to the people that got us in the place where we already are. Look at a place like Vienna and their approach to social housing. This is an issue that I've been discussing for years. We have to be able to look outside our borders. Just like Americans have the complete inability to do that, Canadians have to be able to look to Europe, look to other places that are doing this stuff properly, whether it's the power of unions and workers' rights in Europe, or whether it's how housing is done in a place like Austria. Like, it's just, we have to look outside and looking to the same neoliberal conservative policies that have gotten us into the position that we are in, and doing that even further with a conservative party is clearly not the solution to any of our problems.